Hi, good evening, and thank you for joining us on day 281 at GGY, our roundtable discussion. Today we have Randy over there at the back. Sorry, Randy, I had to acknowledge you that you're here today because Randy's wife, Portia, is joining us as a guest. Thank you, Portia, for coming. We have Manik, we have Damaris, we have Maubrey, we have Chris, and we have Leisha. Thank you, guys. We are here after an absence last week. We missed the roundtable discussion last week. But today we are going to tackle a few interesting topics concerning rule of law, right? Essentially, our constitution, justice, rule of law, and in particular, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution that brought about the national list, right? So I think we'll start a whole discussion with that. To introduce Portia, Portia is basically one of us, concerned citizen.
Yeah, exactly.
PR, marketing and crisis communication specialist, as well as a psychologist, but very much involved with the Aragale. That's how we met, but it turns out we actually related. So full disclosure, guys. we're related. Fairly close to you as well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and so, we've since stayed in touch. The beautiful artwork that we see, our logo, all of that was designed by Randy, an incredibly talented, what would you call it, a digital artist?
Oh my, that's a question we don't know how to answer.
We don't answer that, okay. But to kind of summarize sort of the discussion that we're going to have, Randy has done this
piece.
A piece of art. Basically, you can see the politicians, past and present, toppling Lady Justice onto the people, and I think I think we are subject to basically our constitution being weaponized against us, and I think the 14th Amendment is a beautiful example of that.
Yes.
And Randy, great piece of artwork as usual, and thank you for all the stuff that you've done for us at GGY. So, Portia, you wanna kick things off on the 14th Amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
So the main reason why I am interested in this is because I feel that this is something we can definitely do because the evidence is stacked up against this, and we have clear proof of how this was done now. And this was so far it had been kept under rugs, without letting people know, and thankfully now we know, and I feel all people in Sri Lanka should know this as a citizen because this was done without our knowledge, and we call ourselves sovereign citizens. Now people might wonder what sovereignty is, and if you think of the Queen, the sovereign entity of the United Kingdom, right? So that is what sovereignty means. It basically means you're the top of the country, and you're the one that matters the most, right? In very simple terms. So my job, as you kind of explained, has been for the more than a decade now, was to simplify things like these, like legalities and crisis communication, which presents these hard facts to people in simple terms. So which is why I am interested in this. The other reason why I'm interested in this is to bring this out in simplified terms. I'm not a lawyer while I sit here. This is a legal matter, and this will be brought to court by lawyers. But I am here as a communication specialist trying to make simple sense of this. And that's why I want to talk about it. So getting into it, what this article 99A specifically, the whole 14th Amendment.
Can we just dial it back a bit?
Yeah.
Because the intention behind the 14th Amendment, I think we need to understand that, right? Why was a 14th Amendment necessary, and what the national list was meant to do for the country? I mean, I did a little bit of research. Can I just read that out so we understand the intention? The national list was created by the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of Sri Lanka, which was enacted in 1988. the amendment introduced a new method for selecting some of the members of parliament. The original intent of the national list members of parliament in Sri Lanka was to ensure that the legislature includes individuals with specialized skills, expertise, and qualifications that might not be adequately represented through the regular electoral process. The national list allows political parties and independent groups to appoint a certain number of members of parliament based on the proportion of the national vote they receive in a general election. The system was designed to enhance the quality of parliamentary debate and decision making by including professionals, academics, and experts from various fields, ensure representation of minority communities and underrepresented groups, allow political parties to bring in experienced politicians who might not have contested in elections or lost in their constituencies. Overall, the national list aims to create a more inclusive and competent parliament that can better address the diverse needs and challenges of the country. Now, about the people who have lost in their constituencies, now that whether that was part of the original intent is basically the question that you want. You need the Supreme Court to answer
exactly
on our behalf, right?
Yes.
So the whole intent was to improve the quality of debate and the people that represent us in parliament, right? Make it more inclusive.
Exactly. So this is very interesting because during now, as you brought up, the intention of the 14th Amendment was at that time, while I kind of read around this to understand what the media was saying, etc. And this was also mentioned in the Hansard by Premadasa, that's Sajid's father. And he was saying that the media has brought this out and made it a circus, etc. So this is an extended reading of the Hansard, apart from what is quoted here. So this was apparently a big ha-ho at the time, right? Because they were assuming, the public were assuming that this 14th Amendment was brought about by JR to extend his term. So that was the initial thought of the people, and that was what the media was working on. So this is a very good example of how people distract us with this other news, while what's going on is entirely something different.
Straw man, keep us sort of focus on straw men while the real agenda has been enacted on the other side.
Absolutely. So what the media did was focus on that, and the people were like, "What's this? This can't happen." And then when they were ready with the 14th Amendment, the Special Parliamentary Committee that proposed the 14th Amendment, which was meant to, as you mentioned, to include people from minority communities or distinguished people, it says, people with something to offer to the country who would not otherwise contest in an election as they might not be popular, they might not have the funds to, run a campaign or whatever, but they are necessary for good governance. So, with intention as that, or so they say, is how this was brought about, and they wanted to include 29 individuals that were appointed, not elected, into Parliament, making the total number of parliamentarians going from 196 to 225, which we have today. So these 29 people were supposed to be like the cool guys, right? The ones who can, like the cream of the country, who can really support decision making, like
policy making.
Yeah,
right?
Policy making, because they would understand certain things.
In their fields.
Exactly, and they wouldn't contest potentially. I mean, even right now, we would see the need for that. I mean, that need is understood, I think,
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's just something that people would be okay to. So then, now what they do is they misdirect the media with all this ha-ho about JR, and they come about and say, guys, what's this all about? It's just a simple inclusion of some good people into Parliament. You were riled up about nothing, right? And they proposed this bill to Parliament. And it looked fine. It looked fine. I mean, if they were to put it to the people, like today, we would perhaps agree and say, yeah, go ahead, add some good people who wouldn't contest, right? But what JR did was then, very interestingly, he put this, the cabinet decided that this was a matter of urgent national interest. So I learned that when you mark it as urgent national interest, you don't need to gazette it. Right. So this is how they avoided gazetting this for the information of the people. So we didn't know, right? We were still worried about JR having a
So
longer
it wasn't
term.
gazetted until he was passed, that means.
It wasn't gazetted at all.
At all.
Right?
At all.
At all. Never. So which is why it wasn't out there for the public to know. And so I'll get to that. And then what happened was JR writes this letter to the Chief Justice, then Chief Justice, and says, "Dear Chief Justice, the Cabinet has ruled this as an urgent matter of national interest. So it is up to the Supreme Court now to let us know if this requires a referendum. And if a referendum is needed, that is to pass a law, if it is violating or violating the rights of the sovereign citizen or the sovereignty of the sovereign citizen or the representative democracy, which it is, it's trying to avoid representative democracy, right? So it should, even without the little situation here that we will talk about, even as it was, it has to go through a referendum. But what the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice then ruled was, actually there was a 5-judge bench that ruled that this was not a matter of national interest and therefore does not require referendum. Now the funny thing is, this was brought to the Chief Justice saying it was an urgent matter of national interest, right? And therefore avoiding gazetting it. And then the court rules you don't need a referendum because it's not of national interest.
And
So
then
this
they
is-
should have gazetted it at that point, which they didn't do either.
Exactly. They didn't do the referendum. They avoided the referendum. They didn't gazette it. They just conveniently forgot about it. And they went ahead and now brought this to Parliament. And with their usual, we know how the votes work now, they passed this. But the funnier thing is, even at this point, when they passed it, you need 2/3 of Parliament, including everyone absent. So it's 2/3 of 196, because at that time there were only 196. They were trying to make it 225. So 2/3 of 196 is 130 votes. They only had 128 votes. And yet the speaker
It is-
of that time
Passed it.
just signed it, right?
And do we know who the speaker was?
Yes. Yes.
ESN.
Yeah. So so he signed it. And at this session of Parliament, Premadasa stands up to say that he is aware of 14th Amendment. He's like, what is the 14th Amendment? He's asking. Why? Because there's a jolly circus going on in the media talking about JR's thing. And I mean, it indicates that he was aware, but there was a little misgiving to this. It was not the original 14th Amendment was not what it was supposed to be.
I mean, at that time, there was a power play amongst them also.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
Yes.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
this was probably playing into that a little bit.
Yeah, this is in his interest, most likely. But he was the chairperson of the Special Parliamentary Committee as well. And funnily enough, we had Ranil in it, and our current Prime Minister, Dinesh
Dinesh Gunawardena was
Gunawardena.
also there. Yeah.
So those are the only ones alive now from the original committee, Ranil and Dinesh. And Dinesh and Sirimao had actually opposed this, saying it's unconstitutional. So that's the other fun. So there are lots of funny things in this. It's
So
so
basically, what you're saying is this nationalist thing came from an amendment.
Yes.
It's not in
It's a
the,
constitutional amendment, but they haven't followed due process. I
No.
mean,
so it is not in the constitution that we have
No.
the proportional representation,
No.
and this appointment is not in the constitution.
No. And in fact, the clause itself is 99A, so it's in between 99 and 100. So it's not part of 99 even, 99A.
yeah, it's like a completely separate thing.
Complete
Article
separate
99A.
section. They included that national list through this amendment. And now, so this alone, the inclusion of this, they didn't follow due process. They didn't have the 2/3, they didn't gazette it, they didn't do a referendum, so none of that.
If they didn't have the 2/3, how come the media and the opposition didn't talk about it at that time?
So that's the thing. So even now, the opposition, I mean, why do they
No,
even,
but, in but that particular parliament,
yeah,
there wasn't much of an opposition.
like now.
I mean, in the sense, yeah, exactly. I think they had
Which
almost
was
like a super.
77?
They almost had like a super
88.
majority. I remember.
1988.
Yeah, 80. They had a super majority, right?
That came in 1988, this proportional representation, this whole change of the election system.
Yeah. Apparently 1988.
Yeah. So when they did the proportional representation, this national list was not in that.
No, so it was in the 14th Amendment. So in 1988 is when the 14th, in May, I think, is when the 14th Amendment was passed, legislated.
Yeah, 14th Amendment is only these nationalist people.
Yes.
No, what I mean is when they had this electoral was past the poll.
The first one.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
what we had. No, so when they changed it to this new system, at that time that must have been some legislature to do that. No,
Yes.
so at that time they didn't have this nationalist people.
No.
No,
No,
1990 was added later on.
1996.
That is the whole. So that is what we are coming to, which is that a certain number of civic conscious citizens are now challenging the legality of the Article 99A
Yeah.
of the Constitution of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, right?
I mean, you would ask the question, I mean, you think it's being opposed now, but it's not. It was opposed by several citizens since then, including Dinesh and Sirimao and several
That
other
means they
civilians.
opposed
This 14th Amendment,
14th Amendment.
saying it's, it's unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional.
Yes.
So I mean, it's taken this long for civil society to maybe catch up.
That's because the
how
evidence was not released.
Egregiously, they used the 14th Amendment to basically bring defeated people in, and
Absolutely.
all sorts of characters come into Parliament, right? I mean, the fact that you could have a defeated person, somebody rejected by the people, brought in through the national list, can eventually sit at the highest office in the land,
Yep.
clearly shows that we have a constitution with a massive hole in it.
Also,
Right, we have a massive gap in it.
But
It's a-
at the
it's a legal
same-
lacuna, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
But at the same time,
Yeah.
there is a law or whatever it is that when you before the elections, you have to give the list of names of.
That's right. That was included in this.
You have to give the list of names. So how can they later
But-
on add other names?
they do that because the law is not clear,
Including
which is why
the-
they're going to. So do you want to read that particular the
Yes, yes.
highlighted part? I mean, I
Yes.
think that is what really
Yes.
brings it
Let
into
me-
focus.
let me-
what I want to say before we move on is you're talking about people who are rejected and then coming in. I recall when Rosie lost her seat in Parliament, she wanted to come in and everybody was, or people were asking Ranil to put her in, and he said, I am not appointing people who are rejected by the people. And he goes and takes the national list seat of the UNP.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So double speak is their specialty, right? I mean, I think
So
hypocrisy
two
is
things here
nothing sort of
we are
new,
failing
right?
because these names are not, what they're doing currently is that these people are not from the national list,
Yeah.
which has to be given to the
Right.
Election
Commission.
That is what's been challenged.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. But they started bringing that you actually to understand that, I mean, you don't need a law degree, because when this was given, we were questioning it. Why are they bringing these people?
Right.
Because
Absolutely. People are.
But it's never been challenged
Yeah.
properly.
yeah,
in the
nobody.
courts.
But isn't the election commissioner, when he appoints, he has to appoint them, no? I mean, shouldn't he have challenged that, because these names are not in the list?
Submitted list.
But even
Absolutely. I mean, he should challenge when he doesn't have a Sri Lankan citizen,
No, but there are forged documents involved. So forged documents says that she's a Sri Lankan citizen, but then
Basil?
well,
Same.
even Gotabaya, right?
Gotabaya.
Forget about Brazil at that time. They brought in the law, no dual citizen can.
Yeah.
Later they removed that. But
Yeah, for
Gota,
that, yes.
yeah, that is how they changed
Yes,
the
yes,
constitution
exactly.
3-4 times. No, they brought in the change the
Yeah.
constitution so that the dual citizen can be.
The 19th
That
Amendment.
is to bring Basil
Basil
Yes,
in.
19th Amendment.
Then Ranil came in is this thing, they removed that.
Removed
So
it.
that is exactly why we are saying that the constitution itself is being
Played
weaponized
around.
against the people.
And they're changing it
For
willy-nilly.
their requirement.
And
That is
requirement.
why in this country what they were saying is like the law, there is no particular one law, it keeps on changing. You can't.
yeah, it's very fluid.
Yeah,
It's
very fluid.
Very fluid.
I mean, for everything they are doing that, they are just passing in parliament. That's a body that passes laws, and
And also, I mean, the courts have to take some accountability
Yes.
into consideration here
Yes.
too. Now, if Diana Gamage was released on bail for a non-bailable offence, who's accountable for that?
Yeah.
So I think we have to question all of it, right? I mean, I am for a completely new constitution because clearly our constitution has massive holes in it, right? But at least by challenging these articles and amendments, we can start maybe a conversation or maybe a process to get to that point. But you want to move on to this particular, how they did it? Yeah.
I'll come back to one point I wanted to bring after just finishing my story on what JR did after writing to the Chief Justice, right? So he included the recommended points given by the Parliamentary Special Committee. And in the third paragraph, within brackets, he makes his own little edit in his letter. And it says, so this third paragraph explains how you can include these names and present it to the election commissioner when you're ready for an election. Like each party or independent group, they need to present their names for the national list, right? So it says, it has to be nominated. To nominate within 1 week of such notice. That is also the condition. You have to nominate within 1 week after you know this many seats are allocated from your party to the national list, right? And a notice, persons qualified to be elected as members of parliament. That means, qualified means in this case, appointed professionals, right? So within brackets now he says, being persons, now explaining what these persons are, who these persons are. Being persons whose names are included in the list submitted to the commissioner under the article. That means under this article, that means people who are professionals, right? Or is in any nomination paper submitted in respect of any election. There you go.
So nomination people was added there.
So the persons
Exactly.
can be
Someone
from
who ran and
national
lost
list, or these distinguished people, or those who are in your nomination list.
meaning, I mean,
Rejected ones.
So then anyone, right?
Anyone
so
can
he
come.
could have been rejected by the people, and you can still say,
One other thing, now this one is new to me. To nominate within 1 week of such notice, right? So you know how. If Ranil was,
Yes,
how
that
long?
is a case.
Again,
Yes,
again,
that
the
is a
constitution.
case.
We have to challenge that.
that is a
I mean,
case.
months later now.
But wasn't the challenge?
That is
Months
what
later,
that's what
absolutely,
Narayana
7
brought
months.
forward. Is that correct? If I remember correct?
No, that is another one that got thrown out of.
Okay.
Before Ranil was officially appointed as president, when he was acting president.
No. I'm going to
That
interrupt
case
you.
is
I'm going to
an
interrupt you there. For the longest time, the UNP did not appoint somebody for that position. Wasn't that was also
Because if you have to
against
do
the
it
law?
within
So
1
Nagaland
week.
went to court on
Yes.
that. Am I correct?
Yes, he did. He did, and
Got thrown out.
Yes, technical issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what usually
It's
happens.
always technical
Yeah,
issues.
it's always technical issues. So I mean, if more people, I think more lawyers should take this up because this is clear. I mean, it's in the constitution. It's not, and then it's written evidence. You know, when the nomination name was given. I mean, it's
Why hasn't
so
civil
clear.
society looked at this sooner? Why hasn't civil society gotten around to this, bit of clear sort of.
I mean, speaking for myself, you guys are more politically savvy than I am. You are more active, right? Speaking for myself, we are usually not very involved in these things. We don't know these things. We don't read the constitution, etc., etc. Only after the Aragalaya have our eyes opened and we're suddenly looking.
Only a political animals are
Ani Mob is a veteran. She's been battling this for.
I can understand that very.
We are kind of.
You know, it,
We're the newbies in the to this arena. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy that some people are that involved and some people just don't know anything. You know, it's absurd when in a time like this, when there is social media, when we can contact each other faster than before, and you know, those days I can understand. You know, but now it's like so quick. You just get around and pass the information. Perhaps maybe there's too much information and we are missing the mood
That's
for the
possible.
trees.
That's possible.
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 I mean,
Highly possible.
if you saturate the media landscape with crap, right?
Yes,
for the lack of
I
another
know,
word,
so.
it keeps you distracted. And also these nationalist issues, right?
Yeah.
Nativist nationalist issues.
Yeah.
You know, people get emotionally worked up, right?
Yes,
Yes.
And also, if they have party biases and they realize that all parties have used this and put people through, then they suddenly find themselves in a kind of dilemma.
I think that might be a key point because every government has done this, right? I mean, I think we'll move to the actual nationalists in a minute, and we can decide for ourselves like what is the usefulness to the legislature as individuals. I mean, do they fulfill the purpose that the nationalist was created for?
That's going to be fun.
That's going to be fun, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So basically, this is the line which enables them to come into parliament and then
So this was handwritten by JR.
typed.
Typed.
Yeah, so usually that's not how
edited
you know,
by
yeah,
JR.
So he's that document, JR's letter, is the only one that has this bracket.
Okay.
So it's not in the
Not the-
original committee's paper.
Well, it's
This
yeah.
letter to the.
I mean, it has to come
Chief
from the
Justice.
Aegis department, right? It has to be vetted
Yeah,
by
so
the
then
Aegis
they use
department, and then
this.
it goes to.
They use this.
Gotabe's, my word is a circular has been happening for some time now.
Yes, something like that, something like that. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is the only version that has the brackets. Before this was legislated, but technically that is also not a law because it didn't have 2/3. So the entire 14th Amendment is practically illegal. Yeah. But this is the funniest bit.
Yeah, but before we get to this, you want to tell us a little bit about the affidavit then? On what exactly is happening in terms of actions that you guys are taking to challenge this?
Yes, I am the actions that
We guys are taking.
We are taking. We are taking.
So hopefully
Because,
taking.
yeah.
So this is there's a nice piece in the Constitution. If you can't bother, I'm inviting everyone. If you can't bother reading the entire Constitution, which is also fun, you should read it. It's fun. The first two.
You have a funny definition of fun,
Your
Portia.
funny idea of fun.
I kind of did that. Well, I like reading legal stuff. Probably that's why. But in the introduction of the Constitution, it says, the Republic will, the principles of representative democracy and assuring to all people freedom, equality, justice, fundamental human rights, and, here's the funny part, independence of the judiciary. This is in our intro. The preamble of the Constitution says the judiciary will be independent. But is it? It's a question, right? It's a question that people have, right? And then comes chapter 1. So the first one is Sri Lanka is a free and sovereign and independent democratic socialist republic. 2, it's a unitary state. And third one, it says the Republic of Sri Lanka is, in the Republic of Sri Lanka, sovereignty is in the people and it's inalienable. Sovereignty includes the powers of government, fundamental rights, and the franchise. And in 4, it says how we will exercise our franchise. And it says we will appoint the legislature. We will appoint the executive power. And they will appoint the judiciary. So they will appoint the judiciary. So that there is a little bit of a problem there.
How does judiciary become independent?
Yes.
If they are appointing.
So it's technically they are appointing it on behalf of
The
us.
people, yeah.
And it's supposed to be our representatives that are doing this. And then comes along 99A and removes our ability to.
Well, technically, the three-pillar democracy is a check and balance on each other. No? So the legislature has to be a check on the presidency, and then the judiciary is a check judiciary is a check on the presidency, and then I don't
Something
know.
like that,
Yeah,
yeah,
something
it
like
has to
that.
work.
But basically, like
How will
check
that
and
happen,
balance.
Jamil, when the person is appointing, if you're being appointed,
Well, there's an implication of good faith in whatever appointments that happen, right? Like so.
if I appoint you, how can I expect you to be critical of me?
No, I mean, I might be a person of good faith who can act independently, right? I mean, even in the US, the president appoints the Supreme Court judges who go through a confirmation process, right? At the confirmation process, you get to know who they are and what their views are on policy and things like that. And generally, you hold them to that, generally, right? So, okay, we're progressing to two
Yes,
conversations.
4. So it says the judicial power of the people shall be exercised by Parliament through courts, tribunals, and institutions created and established. So
what exactly are you challenging through the affidavit?
So what I'm saying here is all these institutes are supposed to be appointed by us, right? And that is the fundamental. This is the start, and we are supposed to be. And it says inalienable, so you can't take this away from us, right?
Sorry, one question. Judges can be impeached, right? By Parliament?
Yes, they can.
Judges can be impeached. So if there's misconduct, technically the
Also, the Supreme
president
Court.
appoints the judges.
Chief
The judges
Justice
can be
Chief Justice was removed.
Yeah, so judges can be impeached by Parliament. That's where the check and balance comes in.
Yes, also the Supreme
get it,
Court
that's
can
right.
remove a president. There are clauses in the Constitution saying how you can do that, under what conditions.
I think
And-
we'll shall we go through that also.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I
you
mean,
know?
if we had something called accountability in this country, maybe it'll function in a
Even members of parliament.
in the way it's intended to do, right? But then that's
Yeah.
the issue we have. Sorry. So
So
to
no, what
get
I'm
into
trying to
like what
say
exactly
is it's the basic, like the Constitution starts off saying that we have power, and then it's just taken away from us in the Constitution itself by the people we have appointed, taking away from us the power to appoint, to elect. Actually, the word is elect, not appoint. And they do it without a referendum. And like you asked this question, how come people don't know? How come people are not challenging this? Because they're being distracted by the media, with JR's circus and then Ranil's circus and Mahinda's circus, this one circus, that one, Diana's circus now. And we are just distracted while things are going on. So shall I?
A lot of circuses. Who are the clowns? The people or the ones who are running the
They're
circus?
supposed to be the circus masters.
Right.
But I think not.
Yeah.
So let me get to the affidavit now. So why I thought this is important is because clearly we are the sovereign people, right? So if we have the power to appoint these people and we are requested or demand, the Constitution demands that we protect it. So that's our duty because we are the sovereign entity of this country. So it's all up to us. So it's not some lawyer's responsibility. It's not some activist responsibility or individual person's responsibility, or the Supreme Court for that matter. It's ours. So I think it's time that we took this torch and stopped expecting all these lawyers to talk on behalf of us and bring this to court, and then they get disbarred and, all these kind of penalization that they have to go through, and they are afraid fairly enough. And even the few people who are in parliament who are willing to bring this up only does so within the protection of, the privilege of the parliament, inside the parliament. And then once they're out, they actually do nothing about it. Now, as we can see, even when this happened and the nation, Sirimao and the other civilians who opposed this, the Supreme Court denied giving them the information that they required to pursue this. So there was this nice kind of affidavit, I think that was, presented by a person called Leela Tunga. This is a
By whom?
Leela Tunga, Mr. Leela Tunga. And he had very, very politely, very respectfully requested certain information because he's confused as how these people are coming to Parliament. So in fact, I'm wondering. I mean, isn't that what we are all wondering? Who are these people coming into Parliament? We never saw them on a ballot paper. So, so this very question was asked from the Supreme Court, at that time by people, and I think that it's those people, because they know, right? Few people know this, like people who are aware. They have been pushing this since then. It's not that they just, forgot about it and then suddenly now it comes. The reason why this is now being discovered is because they kept pursuing this. Individuals, citizens, not lawyers, not, anyone else, citizens have been pushing this, requesting again and again and again. In 2015, after the RTI, we have that privilege now, they finally got it. So since 2015 is when we have these evidence among the citizens now. And this has still been, kind of swept under, kept quiet, no one's talking about it, etc. So I felt, I'm the least, I'm not out there, I don't talk, I don't do a lot of videos. I talk a lot at home. But
Is that true, Randy? Okay.
And so, but I don't usually come out and talk about these things. But I felt if I did it, people like
Might
myself,
inspire others to come forward.
might think, why is she doing it? Because she's not an activist. She doesn't seem to be doing, I am sort of an activist, but, I'm not out there a lot. So I felt if I do it, and I'm a lady, I'm a mother, I have things to lose. Why am I doing this? Right? So people are afraid. Contempt of court, this, that. It's all just vague terms that are thrown at us.
Scare tactics.
Scare tactics, right? So they assume that we might just fall into those traps, and then they arrest one here, one there, and not even arrest. They call them to the CID and they think, oh, inconvenient. This is enough to get the people all, locked up and not talking. So I felt I should do this. And what I thought I'll do is I'll just write this down, how I understand this. I saw Sugandhika's video in Sinhalese, which made a lot of sense. And this was initially brought by Nagananda in 2015. And I think that this very case is why he was disbarred. But never mind that.
Can I just say something? Nagananda Kuritok has actually come and spoken to our group, and
Almost 1.5 years ago.
Yeah, our understanding of his intentions were very pure from what we understood, but he was very puritanical, like uncompromising. I think that rubs people the wrong way, especially other lawyers, because if you talk to other lawyers, generally they will dismiss him as a kook, right? Now with the disbarments, he's become a toxic asset to a certain extent. That in a way to delegitimize the things that he has done in the past, like this particular. He took this up as a cause, right?
Yes, he did. Long time
Yeah.
ago.
So other people taking it up because Nagananda's name is attached to it. It sort of delegitimizes this as well, right? It by association. But this is genuine cause.
Yeah, well, his
I'm
name
gonna-
is not attached to it
Boss,
in that way.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something about this, right? I think this guy, Nagan, deserves far more credit than we give him, right? When he was disbarred, okay, then the message that there was a message being shared, I forwarded to a few of my lawyer friends. And I think 99% of them replied saying he deserved it. Serves him right. Good riddance of, basically, if you simplify the GROBR, good riddance of bad rubbish. But when this, it was so funny. I thought to myself, when this bar association matter, this about JICA funds being misused. There was something mishandled, misused.
Yeah. It's all out there now. It's all out there now.
So the Island article was being shared, but the article did not have the names of the lawyers and the amounts it took. But that was also part of the WhatsApp message being shared.
Somebody had narrated that and it was getting shared.
They gave the lawyers' names.
So then one of those same lawyers who told me, Machan, why don't you forward this to Nagananda?
Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, you are the one who told me.
So they're using him as a...
Yeah, because they know he will do something about it.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah?
you mean to say about these lawyers thing?
No. What I mean to say is, I feel Auntie Mombri that these lawyers, they know. I mean, he's not a crook, right? The fact that he's not the fact that he challenges sometimes.
No, so
is that what they cannot? That's my understanding.
Yeah, the way I see him is he's too puritanical.
Yes.
No,
Right? And he's a single issue guy.
How do you
His issue is the constitution.
How do you reconcile otherwise? These
Yeah.
guys who say, that Buddha was struck off the,
Yeah.
he deserved to be struck off
Yeah.
this thing. He was asking for this thing.
Exactly.
Then they come back and say,
Yeah.
he's the guy you should tell,
Right. Yeah. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked by Nagananda, but getting back to what you're doing. So now this has been, we are a party to what you're doing. Like we are going to sign the affidavits along with you, right? Like which we are going to do on Sunday at GGY. So if anybody, can we invite people to come and do that? If they want to, they can come and help.
Yeah, so there are others also. I have to tell
Please
you.
go ahead. Yeah,
There
please.
are others
We're like-
also.
yeah.
And I just want to say, I mean, Nagananda is one person who went behind the evidence and got it, and that's why it's out there. And he, as he always does, he has actually won a lot of cases. People think all his cases are rubbish and etc. What about the elephant, right, in the temple who was abused? The gas issue, the BMW issue. Everything he's bringing up and then serving the people. He's not making any money on this and all that. But anyway, so he was one of the people in the long list of people who were pursuing this. And I felt, like you said, that the stigma or discrimination against him shouldn't let this case go under.
Yes.
Right? Because this is not a case that is Nagananda's.
About a person. Yeah.
It's the citizen's sovereignty being stolen from us, What's stolen? Okay. So
Yeah. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
which is
No, because
why
I came up with a list of reasons how it's damaging us. I'll get to that. But
okay.
once
Okay. So I made it very, very simple here. There's nothing very, very legal here. And I brought it down to 3 points. And the purpose of this affidavit is to request an appeal or actually demand, because we are the sovereign citizens, from the Supreme Court that they correct this mistake. Now that there is enough evidence to see that this is a mistake, I perceive this as a mistake as a citizen. And as a citizen, I have a right, not a right, a duty to protect the Constitution. And this Constitution has been blatantly violated by JR, E.L. Senanayaka, the 5 judges in the bench at that time, and coming to the conclusion that this was not of national interest for some reason. So those people they have done a grave
Disservice.
to the
Injustice and
people,
disservice.
to the people, not to anyone else, to the sovereign people. And I think it's the duty of the Supreme Court to correct this. And it is also a provision in the Constitution that the Supreme Court can take a judgment and correct it on their own accord, which is my last term on the affidavit. So they can do it on their own accord. We don't have to force them. We don't have to recruit. This is just
you're going to put it in front of them.
Exactly.
And say, okay, rule however you wish, but look at the facts.
Yeah, because it is the duty of the Supreme, or the role of the Supreme Court, to define the Constitution. So this is a nice thing that they have to do. So the definition of the Constitution is in the hands of the Supreme Court when it's in question. Not that we can't understand the English or the Sinhala in it, no, or the Tamil. We understand it. And it's something that we need to approve, which is why it is something that we need to approve if they are changing it. So when it's in question, when there is a law that appears to be a law that isn't a law and is violating our rights, then the Supreme Court has every right and duty to get involved and correct this. And I'm hoping that enough.
The correction would be to disqualify all the
Well,
nationalist.
Ideally, that would be the extreme. I mean, that would also
be
be
the end
right
result.
to do. That
Would
would
be the
be
end
right to
result.
do.
no, but they can bring in laws that are not retroactive.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the anti-corruption law, it's not retroactive. So it's from now onwards. So
Yeah.
so it might not correct past mistakes,
No,
but,
but it
it might apply going forward.
Going
So,
forward, now we have an election coming.
Yeah, going forward, yeah.
You know, so if they can at least remove the bracket
yes,
and
exactly.
not have people who we have rejected,
Rejected,
explicitly
yeah.
rejected,
Yeah.
walking into parliament like it was their, dad's.
Right. So this is the current national list.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Let's
How
do
many
this.
how many people here are defeated? Okay. Straight away we know the United National Party. He's not the current. This is when he was appointed through the UMP list. Now is Vajirabe Vardhana sitting in that seat, but he was a defeated candidate who was brought in through the national list. I believe Sarath Veerasekara was defeated, right?
I'm not sure about it.
Did he contest?
Sarath Veerasekara? No, he
was the
highest voting.
So why
Sarath
is he in the national list? He's in the current national list.
Where?
Yeah, this
Right
is the
on the bottom.
2023 national list.
Yeah, this is the latest national list.
From the
Yeah.
Okay, so the highest number of votes was
In the 2000 and the previous
elections, right?
previous election, wasn't it? Okay,
So this is 2023.
we need to maybe
This is
maybe
2023.
look at it a little more deeply. But if you look at who's
2023.
here,
Yes, this is the current. This is on.
but look at this list, right? I mean, does this list fulfill does it really speak to the original intent of the national list? I really, maybe a few, right?
Maybe a
I
few,
think Dr.
yeah.
Harini,
Dr. Harini stands out there,
You
yeah.
might be able to justify Iran and Bakir Maka, maybe. You might be able to justify.
But see-
Although they should be able to contest and win an election.
Exactly.
But
That's
then
the
you know-
have they come in on the national list for the first time?
No,
Or
it's,
is it multiple
this
times?
is the latest one, right?
No,
so
but
if
what I'm saying
Iran,
is now, for example, people like
They
Iran
haven't
and
even
all.
been defeated, right?
No, I'm
we
saying
might have
people
to-
like Iran and all, did they
Yeah.
come in only once on the national list and
we'll
thereafter
have to
contest?
look into
no,
that.
so if Iran was in politics for a long time, right? So if he was initially the people voted for him and he came in, and if at this point he is not one of them, then we have a question again to ask if the people are still satisfied with him and why is he not then?
Yeah, I mean, let's not speculate because we
Yeah.
really don't know who has lost and who was brought in.
Yeah. So
But-
this is an
but-
open. Let's post it up and let
Right.
people talk about it.
But also looking at the list itself, you can
My God, Nimal Lanza.
right.
Mahinda
So
Galugamage.
we can like what
Dana.
that so this is what I mean. I mean this undermines the intent, right? So the way it's structured now basically rewards political loyalty and patronage, right? That's basically what it does, and there's no transparency into like the decision making process as to why these people are there. They don't have to justify it. They just put a name and they can bring them in. And also, it's a betrayal of voter trust, right? Because the voters, if a person is rejected, let's not focus on the names, Auntie, because then we'll be here all day, right? If a person is rejected by the people, right, and then is sneaked in through
yeah,
a
basically
list
sneaked in.
that back into parliament, that's a betrayal of the voter trust. Then why have votes at all? I mean,
Exactly.
then-
I know.
right? Like
Just
then
call
let
it a
them-
dictatorship and
and well,
What
let's
is
not
the-
give them ideas,
what
but
was the definition
Right.
of appointing
know.
people to this national list?
and also, sorry,
he
No.
read it at the beginning.
yeah, there's an
experts.
intent,
I mean,
right?
what experts?
That's exactly the
we
point.
can
So-
say what experts they are in
Like,
actually.
what's Diana expert on?
No, but also there's a representation issue, right? Whilst the national list is supposed to enhance minority representation, where do you see that?
Where minority, where's
Right?
that?
There has been cases where it has not effectively served this purpose, right? Like parties sometimes prioritize political loyalty over genuine representation. So that I think you can see that here, and also the expertise part, right? The whole idea was to bring in expertise so that you have people that can contribute to the policy sort of debates and things like that and craft better laws, right?
have to read this.
The legislature is there for making laws,
Yeah.
and where's the expertise here?
Jamil, I have to read this.
Go ahead,
Alicia
please.
list. National list is to enable professionals, academics, and any such eminent persons to enter parliament.
Yes.
He wasn't listening earlier, was he? I read it earlier.
Sorry.
No, but it's good to point it out for, I mean, it's a very short and nice description of how.
No, I saw Nimal Lanza's name and then I read this.
And Diana, what is
And
she?
Mahinda
Right. Exactly. So Diana's there purely because of a political deal.
Yes.
Like she owned the party. So this enables horse trading. It enables all sorts of deals and unnecessary things to happen. So I think this should be put in front of the people in the form of a referendum. I mean, now they're talking about changing the constitution to have a hybrid system of first past the post plus proportional, right? Like, I mean, I don't think that's a bad idea, right? So,
No, that's how they bring it. I mean, they brought the nationalist.
yeah,
It wasn't a bad idea
right,
till
exactly.
it was.
Exactly. So we've gone over like the hour mark now,
Okay.
right? So shall we wind this up? Is there any final message you want to
Yeah,
leave us
basically,
with
I
this?
hope many people just get behind this. There is a Sinhala, Tamil, and English version. Read through, do your own research. There's the documents linked to each of those. There's an online petition. So the online petition has the documents linked, the proof documents, where you can actually go through these in length.
We'll share it on the
Yeah.
group, yeah? There's a
And have a look and ask your own legal friends, what does this mean, etc. If you don't know how to decode it for yourself. And if you can come and sign the affidavits, that's stronger because that is presented to court. And if not, at least if you can contribute to signing the online petition, and we can get enough numbers behind it, hopefully before the election, then we can present this to courts and at least request the national list to be.
The issue is we have a lot of voters who are low information voters, right? That is the problem. Like,
Yes.
how do we break through an issue like this? I think that's important. So that's why we can help me.
So with this affidavit, if this thing works, the number will reduce from 225 to 196 again?
No, if it's
No,
we are
it-
not saying what to do.
No, we are not saying to get rid of it. We are saying to stick to the original intent.
intent
Where
and
the
remove
rejected politicians don't come in,
Okay.
slither into
At
the
least
regular.
that.
This is a back door, Chris.
Okay, no,
It's a
right,
back door.
right. I thought we were, okay.
At least that.
Well, I mean,
We-
if there is a change in the constitution coming, we might have to look at it and see what that would mean.
Yeah.
But then, as it is,
and people should be more. I mean, if something is carried through the media and it's making a big howl, that's probably not the news. you
Yeah,
want
look
to
at
be
look for the
looking at,
storage
Yeah.
seats. So
Yeah.
which
So
are-
I
That's a
think
distraction.
that is something you guys are also doing, bringing these things up again and again and keeping focus on the matters that matter. And I appreciate you guys for doing that. And there are others. I appreciate that. And I hope, I don't know. I'm hoping that a person like me coming and talking about this will be an eye opener for people like me and come, and help. While you guys are doing an amazing job doing this every single week, right? I feel this just needs to go through to as many people as possible, as simply as possible, which is why I'm doing it we are speaking in English this way, because Sugandhika did an amazing interview with Narada, which was in Sinhala, and she couldn't have said it better. It was amazing. And hopefully someone does it in Tamil, so our Tamil speaking audience and citizens can get an idea of this, and they can put their people. And where's the minority this is the chance that they can get
I mean,
a good representation.
there's absolutely nothing here. Right?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing here.
So
Okay, so thanks, Portia. Thanks for bringing this to us, right?
We have a
as a
signing
group,
on Sunday.
yeah, we'll do the signing on Sunday with
At
you
GGY,
guys. I
yeah.
think attested. Then I think all the technical details have been covered, right? So if people walk in there that day, they can just sign, right?
Yeah.
On behalf.
Might have to go to some other places like, the
yes,
Port
I'm
Railway
hoping so
Station.
that, which is why I said
Well, let's
start.
get some other groups
There are
involved.
other
Maybe we can
groups,
talk to
yeah.
Citizens Council. We can talk to other groups.
there are other groups. That's what I'm hoping. I
Right.
mean, in Sinhala, I don't know. Sugandhika is better at bringing this out, and possibly others. I'm not the best. So I'm just hoping that this can go through in simple terms to everyone, because once it's all very, like the petition online is in Sinhala currently. It's very legal and might be a bit putting off for people who can't understand. So things like that. If someone can, whoever is watching this, can help us make this, take this to more people simply. I'm willing to help.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great, fantastic. Thanks, Portia. So, shall we move on from the topic?
Yes.
We are now running over time, so let's skip through quickly. Elections. I think we finally had an announcement, right? You guys want to talk about that?
Well, just to say that think before you vote. Please vote. It's very important that you don't say, "Ayo, Vedakne, everybody's the same. I'm not going to bother voting." Please vote, but don't just think along party lines. Think of the person you are voting for. And if it's a presidential election first, look at not just your first preference, your second preference and third preference. Make sure that it's decent people that you're putting as your second and third preference, because nobody is going to get 51% in as a first preference. And then when they start counting second preferences, you might find somebody slithering in again through the back door.
Yeah, I mean, now we need to now think in terms of like who's the worst of the worst and maybe look at eliminating them. We don't have a perfect choice. I mean, I don't think any party or person is perfect. There's a lot of baggage that each one carries, and there are, pluses and minuses. I think I gave a...
You had a tweet.
I tweeted about
Yes.
it in fairly like stark terms, but no, the story I want to tell is there was a friend of mine who would not commit to a girl, right? Because he was always like, he had, it had to be like every single thing that he wanted. And then eventually I said, why don't you look at like the 80% rule? Like think of 10 things that you like and be happy with 8. Maybe you'll find someone for you, right? I mean, I think similar principle here. I mean, we are not going to find like the perfect.
Yeah, it's more like a vote out than a
It's
vote
never
in.
vote
Yeah,
And
yeah.
who is actually best for the country?
Right,
as a
80%
whole.
rule, right? I mean, when the NP, now we've spoken to NP, Chris says something, he's dying to say something. I'm waiting to hear this. But we've listened to the NPP, right? We've listened to SJB. Do we need to listen to SLPP and the UMP? I think there's plenty for us in terms of like, I think there's a big track record there. I mean, people will say, yes, JVP also has a track record, but now we are talking to the NPP now. I mean,
I would say it's one and the same.
Yeah, right. We don't need to get. I mean, we don't want to get into the whole political thing.
I mean,
but
we are not pulling for any one party.
Right.
We just want decent people to come into parliament. We want decent people running
right,
this country.
I think the choices will come into clearer focus closer to the election for the people. But I think at least from our perspective, we have to try to eliminate the worst of the worst, right? So even within parties, there are bad candidates. Like even what we might consider a good party, there are bad people. The people can reject them.
No, like Lisha
Right?
said, it's a person we have to be thinking about now. It's not a party thing anymore. It's a person thing. Like in Colombo, it might be an MPP candidate that's better. In Badulla, it might be someone else. In Kandy, it might be someone else.
But it's
And
up
if
to those
general-
electorates, it's up to those
Exactly.
people in those
And
electorates
they're
to
the
make
ones
those
who know
choices.
about
But
this person,
but
right?
but I think Lisha's point is that do your civic duty, don't sit it out. Like
Yeah,
come out
absolutely.
there, vote. Right? I
Let
think
your
you're making the
vote.
point.
It's your civic duty, actually. It's
Yeah.
your responsibility to
Right.
vote.
And Lisha said, don't vote for any miscreants. Right? That's your main message, I think. But yeah, so the other thing is now, whilst laws are being passed, that is meant to improve governance, and the supporters of the government will come out and say, oh, look what he did. This is also that. But those laws are being passed whilst these unsolicited deals are being done, whilst Kehelia Rambukwal is sitting in jail.
And
All
in hospital.
right, well, jail technically, but it's all happening under the same cabinet, right? So, we don't thank a burglar that's what I
I saw
tweeted
what
today.
you said, yeah.
I mean, like, you don't thank the burglar for robbing your house and then fixing the door on his way out, right? You know what I mean? Like, so, I think character matters, I think integrity matters. And I think when it comes to the ballot box, we should look at all of that. It's not just one little law being passed here that's going to improve governance. And this is by force. The IMF had to come and say, you guys are really bad at governance. You have to fix it. Otherwise, you're not going to get money. So it's literally with a gun to our heads. We are passing some laws now.
But we've still
Right.
gone and had without tenders. We've still
And at the
still
same
without
time, they're
that.
doing this. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So I think
There's
we
no
need
gun to the head when
this is we need to be clear-eyed when we go to the ballot box next time. So I think that's the point I wanted to make. Anything you guys want to add to this? Right now there are two unsolicited deals. One is the
That we know of.
IVS GBS, right? Which has gone as the VFS scam, but actually it's this IVS GBS, some unknown entity that's gone. I mean, the projected revenue with an estimated 2.3 million tourists in 2024, The private company could earn 42 million, that's in a year, that's 12.7 billion rupees. What's the justification? Generally, if you are digitizing something, it's to bring in efficiencies, and digitization reduces costs, not increases it. So if Mobitel says it can do it for $1, how do you justify 18.5? The fact that the end user is paying for it is not a justification for just increasing the cost. Where does the money go? How do you justify this 18 and a half? So we have no transparency there. I think court challenges are coming, right? And I think sometimes you can bring things into the light with these challenges. Now, the minimum room rate that was done by the government has been reversed. Yesterday, it has been reversed yesterday by the courts, right? Because
By courts?
Yeah, the courts reversed it because a challenge was brought in. So I think we need people to step up and do these things.
I mean, even the court needs our support to stand by certain decisions. I mean, there are some really good judges out there. They need a little support to know that if they do this,
the people
if they
support
take
the right
exactly.
decision.
Right. Now, the other unsolicited deal is the power purchase agreement with Adani. Right. Now, it's been challenged in the Supreme Court by WNPS of all people, right? This
Wildlife and Nature Protection
Society, right? And it's talking about costs as well, right? There's a significant discrepancy in the cost of power generation. The environmental EIA estimated 0.46 cents per kilowatt, while the minister stated that it was 0.85. It's double. We're buying it at double the cost. I mean, why? Why? I mean,
Where is that?
Right?
We know why, right?
We know why, but
Where is that going?
right? I
Whose
mean,
pockets?
just because they're investing, I don't know, 300 million. I can't remember the value of the project. Doesn't give them the automatic right to charge the government a higher fee, which then they will accumulate over a period. It's a 20-year thing, 20-year deal, right?
No, I mean, the
You know, I mean,
government is
it's,
treating us like we are vermin, right?
Right.
We are supposed to be sovereign citizens.
I mean,
They're just passing everything.
I like how many times you said that sovereign
Sovereign
Because we
citizens.
don't realize that.
we might be.
Well, as sovereign citizens, I think we have a people have a responsibility, right? I mean, this is active citizenry has to be a
Has
part
to
of
be
all
a
of this.
thing, sadly, yes.
So these are the things that are being done with an election looming, with a change of government looming. It almost feels like a fire sale of things going on. Like everything needs to get done before the window closes on these deals to be done.
And that museum for Ashraf?
Right.
Exactly.
What?
Which is Sun
And
is saying
and
that,
vehicle permits for the MPs, right?
Yes.
Vehicle permits.
All of a sudden they're like, what can we take? What can we take?
But Nishan Dimel, when he was here, made a point that sometimes you don't need to like look into things like that, because that is in the calculation when you look at remuneration. Because now when officials join a state institution, their pay is so poor. One way that you compensate for that is by giving certain benefits and things like that.
That's
That is the
fine.
point he made.
That's
I mean,
arguable.
that is that's
No,
tokenism,
no,
right?
That's true. That is true.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at the time, when citizens have been prevented from
No, I
getting
get it.
vehicles
I
simply
get
because
it.
we have to stabilize the economy,
Yes,
when
I get it.
that luxury is given to the
Optics matter.
yeah.
We've been saying this from the beginning. That's why
That's not okay.
yeah, that's why presidents overseas travel. I mean, I think that's optics, right? Like, so, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
when we
I
were
get you.
losing power, they just said it out that I mean the MPs would have power. It's just you guys who are not going to have power because they are busy.
Yeah.
They're so busy, governing the country and all.
So these are the things that are going on. Do you want to quickly run through this? We haven't done this in a while. We are almost at 8:30. Or shall we just put it to next week?
Just keep it at the
Right? I mean,
You can do it next.
yeah. Chris generally reads out a list of sort of
This has increased actually.
Yeah.
Prasanna
You
Ranadigar
right.
assaulting that
where there's no accountability for powerful people. Let's put it that way, right? So this is a list of, I think maybe some old, some new, but where there's no accountability, where powerful have done things
Yeah,
which
because
are
they feel
blatant
powerful,
With
which they
impunity.
shouldn't.
with exactly. This shows impunity.
Because
So
they
shall I
know.
quickly read a few things out? Diana Gamage, not a Sri Lankan citizen, given bail for non-bailable offence. That happened last week or a few days ago. Minister Arundhika Fernando instructed the control of immigration to release the Chinese person with false passport. Right? So minister can just intervene and
saying he was an investor.
right, exactly. Then Indika Anuruddha supporters behind the assault of the Oman investor. Instead of enacting the law, I think they gave him land to move the factory to some other places. Ali Sabri Rahim, and who smuggled a whole bunch of stuff. Then Deputy Mayor of Kadwala who beat up Piat, right? What's happened to that? We must ask Piat actually whether he got any justice for that. Then Nimasi de Silva and the Japanese ambassador, right? The Taisa Corporation, right? I mean,
And what about that Prasanna Ranavira who
That's
assaulted
right, that's
slapped
right.
that poor porter?
Porter, and he admitted to it also. So there's a whole list of things like that, and then there are the killings, disappearances, and injuries. These are the most famous cases, but there's a lot more than this, right? That's Richard D'Souza killing, Lasantha Vikramatunga killing, Prageet
Now you can
Caligula
add
disappearance.
At the Ratupas also.
Yeah, Ratu Paswala killing. I mean, there's absolutely no justice or accountability in this country. That is why we don't see people in power edit their behavior, because they can act with impunity, knowing that there's absolutely no accountability coming. So this is why we continue to see the same cycles being repeated, right, over and over again.
Yeah.
Easter attacks, right? This is
I
one of
asked
the
a
core
question.
things.
Actually, I asked a question of why wouldn't dividing the media bring this out?
Yeah.
But then I think we have an answer here. When the media is
drunk.
killed, when
Yeah.
certain people, select people are so the
That also
message
happens.
goes. Everybody else quieting
Yeah.
down. They know. They know.
I mean, good journalism really matters. I mean, this Kehelia issue only came out because of activism and journalism, right? Activists pushed and pushed and pushed. Remember, we went for the first protest to the health
At a
ministry.
recent discussion, I met a journalist, and I was telling her, people like Namini and they do so much, and she says, no, I like to write balanced articles.
Balance basically he's saying safe, be safe.
That's right.
But also now this week, Dr. Shafi has spoken out, Shania Besekar has spoken out, right? I mean, those people who are responsible for making, destroying those lives, where's the accountability? Some are sitting in parliament as MPs. Those newspapers didn't even print a retraction, right? Destroyed the life. I mean, Dr. Shafi and the whole family, right? So I think it shouldn't just be us being outraged by things like this. I think everybody needs to be outraged. Yeah. And those people should never be returned to parliament, right? Should Chandra Jayasubhan be sent to parliament, right?
And he's
and
a
people
doctor,
like Padini.
a professor, a doctor.
Right, exactly. So, and then the multitude of scams, right? I mean, there are scams just adding up. This list is just, I think, there's so much to add to this list, right? This is just a drop in the ocean, and there's absolutely no accountability for any of this. With that, let's go to Lisha, and who has found some quotes that we can end on.
Right. So I have two quotes. First one is, people often say with pride, I'm not interested in politics. They might as well say, I'm not interested in my standard of living, my health, my job, my rights, my freedoms, my future, or any future. If we mean to keep any control over our world and lives, we must be interested in politics. That is one.
Yeah, we can't force people to be interested in politics, but
At least be aware of what is happening.
yeah, be aware,
Open
be
your eyes.
engaged. I think that's what the Aragalaya represented: engagement, and and look at the change it drove in that short time.
Short time.
That is the power that people have. They don't realize how powerful they are.
I mean, there's a strange thing about that, right? Now they've suddenly, people realize, people like myself, now we know, okay, we are sovereign citizens. I've just learned that after the Aragalaya, right? I thought we were right at the bottom, right? Now we learn that. And this is so true. I mean, it's not politics, it's our lives that we're talking about and our children's lives. And now that we know this, we are kind of that's a good thing. Like, we know this now, but the thing is, most of our people are like, okay, we know this, but I hope someone's fighting for it because I don't have the time. But it's better than the other thing where we don't know at all.
I mean, what frustrates me is when people say, "Oh, look, we have power, we have fuel." I mean, power at any cost or fuel at any cost is not the answer, right? Not everybody can afford that. Only a privileged person will make that argument. You know? Only a privileged person will make that argument. You have another quote, right?
Yeah.
Nisha?
My second quote is bad governments are elected by good citizens who don't vote.
Just that.
There you go. Sovereignty. Exercise your franchise. And be an active citizen, because without that, we won't have a democracy, right? Democracy is already backsliding. A plethora of laws have been brought in to basically curtail our
Suppress
freedoms, our rights, our free speech rights. I mean, Sri Lankans are not allowed to mourn their dead. And we are mourning a brutal dictator. I mean, sometimes the hypocrisy is just staggering, right? So,
when you put it like that, yeah, that's true, no?
it's staggering.
It's
right?
true. You
It's
don't
absolutely
realize.
staggering. So, guys, shall we end on
Yeah.
that? Is there any final thoughts that any of you want to
Lots, but for another day.
for another day? Actually,
So we're going to see you again.
Quite honestly, maybe we should start at 6 and end at 8. We can just keep going on, but we have to kind of like stick to a timeline and so on. But Portia, thank you so much for doing this first of all, and for bringing it to us, and for allowing us to be a part of this effort. I think
Thank
we are
you
we're
guys,
happily
because I need the
we're happy to be a
support.
part of this, right? We're happy to be a
Just
part of
me,
this.
it's not going to change a lot.
Yeah, no, you've been a champion. We've seen you right through the Aragale and Randy as well. Great supporters of GGY, right? Like down to our logo has been created by you guys. So thank you so much. So thank you guys.
Sunday, we'll be signing this.
Right? Sunday, if anybody's in the
One of
area,
the
please do
places.
come.
There'll be other places
come,
also,
come and
yeah.
sign the affidavits. So let's wrap it up for today. CK, thank you so much for doing this as always. So guys, that's a wrap from the roundtable discussion on day 281. We'll see you guys on Sunday at our street corner in Timirigasaya for day 282. Amazing, right? 282 days. I mean, we are closing on 300 days, which is quite an achievement, right? We are keeping a civic space which we have built, right? It's going because at this stage it's purely a sort of kind of like a token, because that right has been taken away for so many people. We should maintain this space.
And,
right?
and you had your own challenges.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, where's the accountability of any of that?
Any
To date,
other-
Nothing.
Nothing.
So guys, thank you. That's a wrap. Sorry, you want to say something on that? Okay, that's a wrap from us here. Good night. Thanks. Good night.